Clark 7, a name that would echo through the annals of history, was a critical planet located at the crossroads of several vital supply routes and trade hubs. Positioned on the outer fringes of human-controlled space, it had been fortified into an unassailable bastion. Its strategic importance was immense, acting as both a defensive linchpin and a launchpad for offensive maneuvers across a volatile region of the galaxy plagued by mysterious disappearances within the twin nebulae, from which only strange spacefaring entities ever returned. The significance of Clark 7 could not be overstated. It was a key choke point that, if lost, would allow an enemy to strike deep into human territory with catastrophic consequences. For this reason, it became the focal point of a fierce conflict between humanity and the Zarthans. The origin of the war was immaterial. What mattered was the fight over this planet, which saw some of the most grueling and sustained combat in recent memory. The planet itself was a fortress bristling with defenses manned by the most battle-hardened veterans of the Terran military. Trenches crisscrossed the landscape, encircling cities and industrial centers, creating a near-impenetrable barrier against invaders. In orbit, rings of defense satellites and weapon platforms, supported by fleets of warships, ensured that any approach would be met with overwhelming force. Despite its formidable defenses, the Zarthans launched an audacious assault on Clark 7, deploying 4 of their mightiest fleets. The ensuing battle was devastating, with enormous casualties on both sides. The ground war quickly became a war of attrition as the Zarthans found themselves facing a labyrinthine network of trenches filled with lethal weaponry. Human forces, deeply entrenched and unwilling to yield an inch, turned the battle into a deadly stalemate. The Zarthans, realizing the futility of direct assaults, began constructing their own defensive positions, mirroring the human strategy. Trench lines, artillery placements, and fortified bunkers sprang up, creating a gridlock where neither side could gain a decisive advantage. The course of the battle often hinged on control of the space above, with supply lines and troop rotations becoming increasingly precarious. As the space conflict ebbed and flowed, soldiers on both sides settled into a grueling routine of waiting and skirmishing. Morale fluctuated, and boredom and desperation became common, leading to moments of recklessness and unorthodox tactics. It was during one such period that a seemingly inconsequential event occurred, an event that would ultimately tip the balance in humanity's favor and reveal a startling aspect of their nature to the Zarthans. On what appeared to be a deceptively calm morning, the silence over the trenches was palpable, a fragile peace that could be shattered at any moment. The Zarthan commander, Lord Commander ZTH, stood watching the sky, sipping a stimulating beverage akin to human coffee. The stillness was misleading, as either side could erupt into violence without warning. ZTH's attention was split between the serene sky and a device being assembled by his engineers. This device, a two-fold weapon system, held the promise of breaking the deadlock. It combined a movable shield capable of withstanding orbital bombardments with a powerful directed energy weapon designed to obliterate city blocks or strike capital ships in orbit. However, only the cannon was operational, and it still required final calibrations. As a heavy fog rolled in, ZTH ordered his troops to remain vigilant. His caution proved warranted. When an unexpected figure emerged from the mist, it was not a towering Zarthan soldier but a human. This human was markedly different from the power-armored warriors they had come to fear. Dressed casually in shorts and a t-shirt, the human ambled through the Zarthan trenches with an air of nonchalance, drawing stunned silence from the troops. The human approached the cannon's exposed control panel, an oversight in the design, and began fiddling with the buttons. ZTH and his soldiers watched in disbelief as the human, seemingly oblivious to the danger, pressed random buttons until the cannon began to charge. With a final press, a massive violet beam erupted from the cannon, slicing through the sky and striking a Zarthan flagship in orbit. The flagship, pride of their fleet, erupted in flames. The human, appearing mildly surprised but unfazed, uttered a casual remark before strolling back through the trenches and out into no man's land. The shock and embarrassment among the Zarthans were palpable. Their advanced weapon had been turned against them by a single curious human acting on a whim. As the news spread, demoralization set in among the Zarthans. The seemingly random act by one human had inadvertently struck a critical blow, revealing a facet of humanity that the Zarthans found deeply unsettling: their unpredictability and audacity. Within hours, the tide of the battle shifted, and the resolve of the Zarthans crumbled. When the human Corporal Flynn returned to his trench, he was met by his commanding officer, Captain Mallister, who was far from pleased. "Just what the hell were you thinking, Corporal?" he demanded. Flynn, after a moment of blank staring, grinned broadly. "I was bored, sir," he replied. The unintended heroics of Corporal Flynn became legendary, a testament to the unpredictable and indomitable spirit of humanity. The battle for Clark 7 ended soon after, with the Zarthans retreating and the war drawing to a close. Flynn's actions had inadvertently saved the day, and the story of his bored curiosity leading to victory became a part of military folklore. Clark 7, now a symbol of human resilience and unpredictability, stood victorious as the last vestiges of the Zarthan forces retreated from its battered surface. The planet's fortifications, though tested to their limits, had held firm, thanks in no small part to the unexpected heroics of Corporal Flynn. The story of his bored curiosity and the accidental destruction of a Zarthan flagship spread like wildfire through both human and Zarthan ranks, becoming a legend that would endure for generations. As the dust settled, the human forces began the arduous task of rebuilding the battle-scarred planet. Extensive repairs were needed, and the morale of the troops, buoyed by their unlikely victory, remained high. Flynn, now a celebrated figure, found himself the subject of both admiration and good-natured ribbing from his comrades. His accidental heroism had turned the tide of the war, and for that, he was hailed as a hero. In the aftermath, Captain Mallister took Flynn aside for a more private conversation. "You know, Flynn, you've probably saved more lives than you'll ever realize," the captain said, a rare smile on his usually stern face. Flynn shrugged modestly. "Just did what any bored soldier would do, sir. Guess I got lucky." "Lucky or not, you showed the Zarthans something they weren't prepared for. They thought they could predict our every move, but you proved them wrong. Never underestimate the power of a human's curiosity and boredom." As the rebuilding continued, human forces solidified their control over Clark 7. The planet's defenses were reinforced, and new technologies were implemented to prevent any future assaults. The Zarthan defeat at Clark 7 marked a turning point in the war, leading to a series of negotiations that ultimately brought about a tenuous peace between the two species. Back on Earth, news of the victory and Flynn's role in it spread quickly. Media outlets and military historians alike hailed him as a symbol of human ingenuity and tenacity. He was awarded numerous medals and commendations, and his story became a staple in military lore, serving as a lesson in the unpredictability of warfare and the importance of individual initiative. Flynn, however, preferred to stay out of the spotlight. After the war, he returned to a quieter life, choosing to spend his days in the peace he had helped secure. Despite his newfound fame, he remained humble, always quick to deflect praise to his comrades and the collective efforts of the human forces. Years later, at a veterans' reunion on Clark 7, Flynn stood with his old comrades, surveying the now thriving planet. The trenches had been filled in, the cities rebuilt, and life had returned to normal. It was a stark contrast to the war-torn landscape he remembered. As he stood there, a young soldier approached him. "Are you Corporal Flynn, the one from the story?" the soldier asked. Flynn nodded, a wry smile on his face. "That's me. But it wasn't just my story, it was all of ours." The soldier looked at him with wide-eyed admiration. "You're a legend, sir. They teach us about you in training, how you turned the tide with nothing but a push of a button." Flynn chuckled. "Sometimes it's the smallest actions that make the biggest difference. Just remember, it's not about being a hero, it's about doing your part and trusting your instincts." As the sun set over Clark 7, Flynn and his comrades raised a toast to the memories of those who had fought and fallen, to the resilience of the human spirit, and to the peace they had secured. The planet, once a battleground, now stood as a testament to their courage and determination, a beacon of hope for future generations. And so, the story of Corporal Flynn and the Battle of Clark 7 passed into legend, a reminder of the power of curiosity, the unpredictability of human nature, and the enduring strength of those who fight for a better tomorrow.